Welcome back to The Loop. We are a bold and fresh look at our lives in Kenya. Today we're discussing the issue of parenting. How has COVID-19 affected your ability to parent? What have you learned? What are some of the mistakes that you've made? And we want to hear your thoughts and opinions and your experiences as well. Share them with us. The WhatsApp line is on the screen right now, but of course also you could use the hashtag TheLoopK24 on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Speaking of Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, social media is a huge thing right now. You've got kids who are like 6, 7, 8. My son is 10, wants to be on Twitter, he wants to be on Instagram, he wants to be and there is this pressure that kids are feeling to be on those platforms. As parents, how do you manage that?
Well, that's a good question. I think with technology and social media especially, it's just to know there's a good and the bad. That there's a way it can be used for good, and you need to help the children know how to harness this for good. Like my daughter, she's 10, and the other day she started a group on social media, and they're actually studying Proverbs together with these other kids who are like 10 kids. And she said, I want to start and I'm going to lead. And I've watched her lead. Wow. And she has grown, you know, in her leadership. So there's a good. But then there's also the bad. And the bad includes the content that they get access to. It includes addiction, because, you know, this thing is addictive. I mean, for us as parents, we also get addicted. Yes. When you wake up, you're just reaching to know who has texted.
Before you talk to anyone, right? Yeah.
So I think we need control in terms of time that is spent there. Because especially children as they grow, they need dexterity skills, which is the ability to work with their hands and be out there. It helps in mental development. If they're just sitting on social media over and over again, it's going to affect them in different ways. Of course, they're going to grow a little bigger because they're just sitting. Secondly, their mental development will be affected. Thirdly, they'll get to hyper multitasking. I think kids get to a place where they can do like 20 things at the same time and not really focus. And you
or not really finish. It's like you always start
just start here, start there, which is not good for them. But also then they may have access to things that they shouldn't have access to. So I think we need first to control the time that they get into it. Number two, know what they're getting into, and they get permission before they get into it. So you could have some parental control there. There are great software that you can use these days. Some are for monitoring, others are for control. Now, this is how far you can go. This is when it times itself out. This is when you can set it on, and it can't come on before this. So as parents, just being there to help them, to work with them. Sometimes we feel like we're interfering too much, but what is parenting? Who is the adult there? You know, these are kids. They need your guidance in social media and technology, just like every other aspect of their lives.
And it requires also to have ongoing conversations about the dangers out there. If we're talking about predators, if we're talking about bullying, if we're talking about just the addiction, the addictive element, we need to have ongoing conversations with children that are age appropriate, of course. But also what I've found out, especially with teenagers, is let's talk facts. You know, let's not just be vague about technology. Let's talk facts. Let's talk about what exactly it's doing to the brain and how addiction comes about, because they relate more, they connect more with facts than just saying, you guys are just spending too much time here, now we need to close this thing down. And then as much as we don't want to lord over them, like Pastor S says, we really are the parent and we really are the adult, and you need to show up in that space with authority. My son is 11. Definitely, he knows way more about technology than I do. And he's at that age where he will say many things very, very fast, so that I just say, okay, fine, go ahead and do it. And I just tell him, okay, fine, okay, it's not making sense to me, so just give me time. Let me go and research, and then I come back and we have a conversation. I still have to show up as the person in authority, even if they know more than I do.
It has a huge mental health aspect, this whole social media thing. There's the addiction, there's bullying, there's coping with, you know, commentary that you're not ready for. Even as an adult, some things are said to you, you're like, whoa, it can ruin your whole day. There's all this information about COVID. How do you help children cope with mental health on social media especially, and all this information coming their way?
I think it's really, modeling is the biggest one here. It's how are you handling it yourself? If it's coming at you and you're anxious and you're making all these comments of, oh my gosh, what will happen? You know, whatever it is you're saying, they're soaking your anxiety, they're soaking your panic. So you really need to also figure out how to deal with your own anxiety, or if there's stresses that are going on there, so that you don't pass it on to them. And then you create opportunities for conversations. Okay, you act as a container for their strong emotions. Okay, so when they are feeling anxious and they're like, Mommy, I'm so anxious about this. It's not, don't be anxious. It's just a small doo-doo. Let's just, you know, sweep it away. You sit there and you're like, what are you scared about? Okay, what do you think will happen? Let them talk about their anxieties and their fears. And you as a parent, be that container to be able to hold it's like holding space for their strong emotions.
So you don't judge
what they're
telling you.
Yeah,
you
just
don't
minimize. You
okay.
don't wish it away. Just let them talk about it. And actually they feel better faster. Yeah, but you know, as parents, we also have to be comfortable with strong emotions for us to be able to do that.
And many of us are not, right?
Yeah, many of us are not.
And I think just creating that environment, one of the things we like to do with the kids is just sit down and everybody says what they're feeling. Right. I feel afraid, and I found that. Anybody is afraid, you know, at some point. And you say, yeah, you're afraid. What are you afraid about? How can we deal with it? And talk through it. I like what you're saying, just the conversations around it. But then the other thing is also creating time for play, for games, and for normalcy.
Your house sounds like a bash.
Yeah,
right. Dancing, playing,
kicking. Mentorship.
But kids need alternatives. Because if you're getting so much social pressure, peer pressure from all of these things that are affecting them in terms of their mental health, then they need another place where they can go and just be okay. Run around. Of course, they need to eat well. They need to sleep enough, because a lot of kids are not sleeping at all. I mean, my kids have been negotiating at least once every 2 weeks. They sleep in the sitting room because they watch movies until very late.
Okay.
I think that happens in your house here. But we need to have some structures of normalcy. I think that really helps in dealing with mental issues.
Especially now that they don't have school.
They know there's a time to wake up, there's a time to sleep, there's a time to eat. That's what schools does for them.
Right.
It really helps them. Now, if at home they don't know when they sleep, they don't know when they wake up, it could be any time, and that causes a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think it's also hanging out with their friends. You see, they're not playing with their friends as much as they used to do. So allow them once in a while, sleep over, or call those kids over to come and they play together, they talk together, or they do a bit of it online, but they need to maintain their friendships so that will help them deal with what they're going through.
As we wrap up, because we're out of time, I want a hard-hitting fact from both of you. What are those things, those big emotions, those mental health issues that we should really be paying particular attention to when it comes to our children?
For me, look for spaces of regression. Okay, if a child has passed through a stage where they're no longer wetting their bed, maybe thumb sucking or finger sucking, whichever it is that they're sucking, you need to be able to watch out for that. Then that means
they go backwards.
They go back, yeah. When they go back, then that means they're a lot more whiny than they were. You know, they had just passed some certain stages. Now they want to use the potty and they were using the regular toilet, you know, things like that. When you start seeing regression, then that's something to look out for. They are anxious, they're feeling uncomfortable, they are not sure, you know, because of the uncertainty that's going on. Their brains are on alert mode, you know, and so they go back to a safe place where they felt safer before. So that's one thing to look out for and get help.
Okay, I like that, regression.
For me, I'll say if your child is out of character and it's become consistent, like they used to be very outgoing, now they lock themselves in the room and they don't want to talk. Or they never used to shout, now they're shouting every 2 hours. If your child is out of character, you need to listen, and you need to watch, you need to know what's going on. Be a student of your child so that you know when something is wrong, because it's going to show, and they're most likely going to act out of character.
Okay, thank you so much to our guests. Now, you both have books.
Yes.
Give me the books. Give me the books. me the book so I can do the plug for you as we wrap up, and Mike introduces us to some interesting things at Unplugged, during Unplugged. So Pastor S. Simon Mbevi has written, Dad is Destiny, the Difference a Father Makes. You gave me this book the last time you were here. I've started reading it, and as a single mother, I'm so challenged. It's just raised up all kinds of issues. Yeah. And Parenting with Your Heart in Mind, A Candid Peek into a Parent's Heart by Dr. Carol Chakua. This will be out in a week.
2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I read it in advance. I know people. And I'm even quoted on the back. Make sure you look at this one. I think it's actually a very great foundation for anyone who even wants to be a parent, even in the future, if you're not even there yet. So it's been a fantastic Friday evening. You are now officially in the loop. And before I sign off, Mike, what's going on with Unplugged?
As usual, I'm here at the Tamu Tamu Bar, my good friend Mark from Wimby Seafoods, who's going to be, telling us about some very interesting Guinness-infused cocktails that you can make in the comfort of your own home. And since it's Friday night, you know how we do at this time. Unplugged coming up in a short time with a very special guest from the coast. She's singing sensation, songwriter, and also performing artist Adasa Dasa will be with us on Unplugged after this break.